A hopeful light in the murk that was the early Game Boy Color library was Hudson's alternate take on the Bomberman franchise, Bomberman Quest. In that game, we saw the eponymous pyromaniac taken out of his arena comfort zone and enter an RPG landscape filled with towns, overworlds, and tricky dungeons. There were allies to find, monsters to capture, bosses to defeat, and new bombs to craft. It was something of a relief to get to in that particular series for me, as many early Game Boy Color games were either absolute car crashes of cash-in coding, or simply colorized versions of old DMG games, with actually worthwhile to play titles being few and far between. Thankfully, the Game Boy Advance library has certainly been much better than that of its forefather up to now, but this spiritual successor to Bomberman Quest is still nevertheless a very welcome adventure to come across. In much the same way as before, the linear storyline here progresses fairly simply, with the game nicely segmented into a town, which serves as your base of operations for that segment, a foresty bit with some side quests, an end-level dungeon with a final boss to top it off. It's all very Link's Awakening in that regard, although with not nearly as much exploration as that game offered. And indeed, the dungeons themselves conjure up plenty of recollections from any of the early Zelda games. Each room plays out in isolation, with doors unlocked and progress made by defeating enemies, bombing walls, or finding switches and so on. Rather than having usable items like lanterns, ladders, hookshots, or whatever, here you're actually finding what are known as Karabon, creatures of various forms that can almost be used like items to perform various functions. You have an A and a B slot to equip stuff, much like Link's Awakening, but here, one is for whatever bomb you have equipped, and the other is for your current Karabon. These might allow you to pull up a shield, push blocks, or teleport to a town you've previously been to, but that's not all they do. You'll notice fairly early on that bombing destructible parts of the scenery in the overworld, or dungeons, that you can uncover icons fairly regularly. The designs on these icons should be no surprise to any Bomberman fan. They can either be a sword, a shield, or a star. Before you've met a Karabon in-game, these don't do anything. However, once you have one alongside you, they can level up their various stats by you collecting these icons. Sword gives them higher attack, shield increases their block, and star increases their special power. They'll also level up from whatever level they start at, right up to level 60 or sometimes even higher, which increases their health points and makes them stronger. This is only used in the Karabon battle system, however, whereby you choose a monster to face off against an opponent's monster and fight them. It's nothing as complex a battle system here as you'd get in something like Pokemon. Instead, you'll pick from 6 different configurations of move at the start of each battle. You need to sort of guess the best order to perform an attack, a block, and a special, hence the 6 options, which allow you to put the 3 choices into whatever order you like: ABC, ACB, BAC, and so on. It's really just a fancier version of rock, paper, scissors, really, whereby if you chose to block on the same turn an opponent chose to attack, you'll negate their damage. However, if you both choose block on the same turn, then nothing happens. Then the special attack is an elemental, which opponents will either be strong or weak against. It helps to learn this so that you can choose the right Karabon to use. Each one has their own special attack, so make sure you're leveling up all your monsters evenly. Only the currently equipped one will earn experience points from the icons you collect. As introduced in Bomberman Quest, you can craft new bombs in the bomb shop if you have the necessary gear. This usually involves combining 2 things you already have, but don't fear that you'll lose the raw materials, because you don't. Similarly, you can also merge 2 Karabon together to create new ones, and you don't lose access to the older ones should you do this, so it's worth experimenting when you get the opportunity. There are only 25 Karabon in total to find in the whole game, but they all have their place and purpose in the story and the Colosseum battle mode. This battling system is a little broken though if you diligently blow all the scenery up that you can, as maxing out their levels is a really simple process that doesn't even take that long, and you'll nearly always be stronger than your opponent. Also, the battling system could certainly have been a bit more interesting, as just picking 3 random choices at the start of a fight, then watching it play out, doesn't offer a great deal of immersion, or variation even. Thankfully, outside of the Colosseum, you you only have maybe a handful of battles in the whole game, which does perhaps defeat the object of training your Karabon. They'll still be able to perform their unique progression skills at level 1. I appreciate that this is a tough thing to incorporate into a game from scratch like they did, while still trying to keep the RPG adventure feel intact. It sort of works, if only shallowly. The presentation is very early GBA in that it's incredibly bold and bright to make up for the crappy washed-out GBA screen, and the graphics are competent if not outrageous. Musically, it's excellent, however, and the storytelling is obvious, but well done. Importantly, the game still does feel like it fits nicely in the Bomberman universe, which is key. You don't want to alienate your existing fanbase. The whole planting bombs, hoping an enemy gets caught in the blast while trying to avoid it yourself, that's all here, and it makes Bomberman Tournament a really nice reimagining of the concept for long-term fans, and a simple but fun RPG adventure for casuals.